Good evening, Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and we are here with another episode of In the Hot Seat with the usual suspects with one of our original guests up here. We have Jerry the Jitterbug tonight. But before we introduce him, because he's kind of an attention hog, we're going to get to the co-host. We're going to go with my good buddy, Rob Fast Actor Comics. How you doing,
Because
sir?
I'm not an attention hog.
I was, just busting balls already. And then below Rob, we have Roger Metarog himself, Mr. Community Man. How are you, sir?
I am very blessed and I'm very honored to be here once again with you and Rob and Jerry.
Right. And of course, our man of the hour, the guy we're always welcome on the channel and always happy to have back, Jerry the Jitterbug himself. How are you tonight, sir?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me on, Gary. Hello, Rob. Hi, Roger. Glad to be on tonight.
Now, Jerry, as I like to do, I doubt there's anyone that's going to watch us on the rewind that may not know you, but just in case there's some people that catch us that don't know you, give a little synopsis of your channel and yourself for those who aren't in the chat that may be discovering Jerry the Jitterbug for the first time.
Sure. My channel primarily is focused on comic conservation, comic cleaning, comic pressing. I like to do unboxings. I like to do specifically Golden Age unboxings. I like to do CGC unboxings. I like to critique CGC. I like to praise CGC when it's warranted. And I, from time to time, work on other people's books from the community, and I try to rehab them. And depending on the person who sends me the book will depend on what I do to the book. So right now I'm working on a book for Roger. It's a Witchcraft Avon publication, I believe from 1953, if I'm correct, Roger.
Correct. December 52, January 53, yes.
Yep. And that was your first book burning, right, Jerry?
Excuse me?
That was your first book burning, right?
Yes. No. We're doing very unique things on this book. We're marrying not a cover to a book, but we are actually marrying a cover to another cover. So Roger's book had a front cover, and Roger, through his research, found the same back cover, front and back, from the same publication, and I removed the back cover, and we're going to connect them both to make one full cover. So it's a fun project. First time I ever did something like that. And another thing that I'm doing is that I know that Roger is going to want to read the book. I know Roger. I know he's going to want to thumb through the pages. He's not going to want to entomb it in a CGC case. So the book is very brittle. So what I'm doing is I am reinforcing the whole cover, and I am putting a thin layer of Tengojo paper over the cover on the back side, which will make the cover a brittle cover, in my opinion, hopefully one that you can flip through, you can handle safely without having pieces flaking off as you touch it.
Right, and that's quite the rare book, because I looked it up when you started doing the video series on it. I'm like, wow, that's a good gift for you, Roger.
Yeah, Jerry has been, quite a blessing. He did previously, he didn't mention it, but previously he did a Silver Streak for me, which he just out of the blue said, hey, send me a comic, whatever you got, I'll take care of it. And he did a beautiful job with that. I initially wanted to keep it, and then Night Tiger really wanted it. So I figured it was a win-win. We did a trade. Jerry did an amazing job on that. And that was, a year ago, Jerry? So now you've refined your technique even more. So you're even better than that, it's hard to imagine.
I've learned a lot since then. And Roger's was the first book that I worked on for someone in the community, and I really fine-tuned my skills with that book. And in fact, off camera, I removed the leaf casting probably about 2-3 times, and I did it over again. That's why it's conservation. You can remove it. It's not something that is permanently there. But I feel no pressure working on the book for Roger. He's a great guy, and if I feel that, God forbid, I did something wrong and I called him up and I said, Roger, I'm sorry, I'll do my best to fix it, he would say, no problem, Jerry, do what you have to do. I don't feel that way with Roger. So it's no pressure, and it's a joy doing it.
Now, I do have a question about that.
Sure.
because some of the stuff you work on, it's golden age books, and some of that's pretty pricey. And are you nervous when you're taking on a project for? I mean, do you take on projects for people you don't know, and does that create any kind of nervousness that you're the responsibility of having that book in your care?
I do get nervous from time to time, and I would say that on a weekly basis, I'll get 1 to 2 people contacting me and asking me to work on their books. And I made a decision. I know last time I was here, I was thinking about maybe doing something like that, maybe for trading books or for payment. And I came to the conclusion that I don't want to do it at this juncture. I will work on books for people in the community if it strikes my interest and they give me some books in return for my fee because I want to build my collection. But for the money aspect, I don't want to do it because in order to do it properly, I would have to get liability insurance. God forbid, I had one book, it was mine. I have 2 cockatiels, and I left the book on my kitchen counter, and I came back 5 minutes later, and they ripped it to shreds because they're fast when they rip paper. And I have dogs. If I have a flood, there's things that can happen outside of me working on the books that I would be maybe on the hook for if I was, perhaps if there was litigation. I know a good lawyer, I can defend the case, but the problem is it's just something that I don't need right now because I'm not doing this for income. I'm not doing it to pay my mortgage, pay my taxes. I'm doing it because I truly do respect the books, and if I do something that I'm not happy with what I did, I really get upset about it, and I sometimes lose sleep over it. And I say to myself, am I going to lose sleep over doing something to a book that's not even mine? It's not worth it. But
And it takes the joy out of restoration for you, I bet too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if there's people out there, and I'll say this to everyone watching or watching it on the rewind, if you do have books that you want me to work on, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but I do need compensation for working on the book in form of books and books that I like. Because if I do a book, and this is not going to you, Roger, at all, I want you to understand that. I'm talking about other people that come from the blue. And when I work on a book, say for instance Roger's book, maybe there'll be, and this is just an estimate, if you calculate all my uploads, it's hours and hours of me working on the uploads. Outside of doing the uploads, there's a lot of work involved. Sometimes one of these books can take 50 hours, 40 hours approximately. It's a lot of time to do it. Not all at once, obviously, but an example with Roger's book, each page has to be leaf casted in order to do the right job because the staples are completely rusted through. So I can't do a nice cover and then put a smelly interior because it smells like mildew. It's in rough shape.
Yeah,
So
that was
those
a
pages.
I gave you a major dog, that's for sure. Yeah.
But it's not. I like those because when it's done, it's not going to be a brand new looking book. But by way of example, the Action Comics that I just did that was eaten by bugs and had tape on the spine, you couldn't read that book without it falling apart, ripping. But when I was done with it, I could stroll through each page like it was from the factory, no issue whatsoever. It really came out well, and that's what I want to do for books if I can. I enjoy doing it. Did I answer the question, or I spoke too much?
Oh, no, you're good there.
The other day by one of my viewers, all of a sudden he's saying he called me long windbag on a comment. If you're watching out there, you don't need to subscribe to me, believe me, because really you don't need to, and I don't need your one subscription. I had to get that off my chest.
That's always the thing. Is like I have books like I sent some of them and they are in tune, but then you go, man, they could really use some work. But you're like, at the same time, they're in such rough shape. Sometimes you go, I just want to leave it inside the encapsulation because it's I don't know that, sometimes it's like you don't know that even if you did all the cleanup and all the other work, you're not going to get a bump out of it because there's too many other issues and flaws with it. So at that point, aside from removing more, so if it's acid loaded or something, there's really not much benefit. But then there's other ones that I got a Batman book I paid like $30 for a Golden Age Batman book because it's the pages are like shopping bag brown and like
Sure.
the center of the center is all that's left of it that's good, but the art that was good was still so good that you couldn't leave it there on the counter for the money, but it's like you're just like, oh God, one of these days,
I get very excited when I see books like that. One of my first searches on eBay is low grade Golden Age, incomplete Golden Age, split spine, every negative thing I can think of, that is in my search. Because a lot of the books are out of the price range for the normal person. So if I'm looking right now, I have a little shelf above my desk with all Golden Age Batmans and all the Disney and really nice books. But these books in 9.75 and high grades, you're talking 10 grand, maybe some of them less, give or take a few. Yeah. But that is not in my price range. So if I can grab a book like the Action Comics that I just did,
right?
For me, I paid a lot. I paid, I think, around low 200s for that book. But it was fine. That, for me, I equate now, at least with 2 tanks of gas or going out to an expensive dinner. So what would you rather have? My family would probably rather have the dinner, but I would rather have the book. So it's a cost-benefit analogy, but the lower grade books, they need love too, and I get really excited when I see them, and it's more of a goal for me with CGC. So when I start working on books, I don't want them really encapsulated where I can't read them. It's more of a competitive nature that I have where I want to see what I can get on the book or what grade I can get on the book, and I want to try to beat my last submission. And that's why I have such a problem lately with CGC, because people, you may call me crazy, you may think I'm out of this world, but I sincerely believe that they are prejudiced towards me, towards my channel, and I think that a few people are tipping them off when I'm sending books in, because the last few books that I got that I conserved, I got restored grades, and they were the same type of work that I performed in books prior to that. That's number one. Number two, a few of the books that I sent in my account to them, they came back with universal labels, and those universal labels, they didn't put care in the books in submitting them. And one of them was the 4-color comics. I don't know if everyone saw that, the Mickey Mouse, the first comic appearance of Mickey Mouse.
The Block,
that's a very
Yeah,
valuable book. Even at a 1.0, it's probably maybe about 1,500. It could even be more. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's one on eBay now.
Because it's Mickey Mouse and it's the first.
Sure, it's a 1.5. And they're asking 33. I know they're asking, and just because you're asking doesn't mean it's going to sell. But what they did to that book with the bottom corner chunk that I spent hours to put it and fold it over, you're telling me they couldn't put it in the inner well or take care to encapsulate it where it wasn't there? And I'm going to do an upload because I'm still working on it with them. And I have an exchange with them, emails back and forth, and when I put that out on the internet, you're going to go, what the F is going on here? They're nuts with the way they responded. Because one of the responses was, oh, it was hanging on by a thread and it must have fell off during grading. So I have an open question towards them. Assuming that you're correct, where's the piece? And I asked them point blank, what does CGC do with pieces that fall off during grading? So if you're telling me a Batman #1 was submitted and their chunk fell off on the corner, or a graphic, or DC on the top left, and that fell off during grading, CGC is just going to take it and throw it in the garbage?
No, they're going to encapsulate that piece and sell it for a lot
Right.
of money. Didn't we? We already saw that, right?
Right, correct. So these are valuable pieces. They have to give it back. Personally, I know where the piece is. It's folded under. I can see it if I look at the book on the side. It's folded under the book inside. If I crack that book open, I would take the book out and I would see they rushed it, they put it in, or they knew it was my account, because I did send it under my account.
But shame on them for not making sure that was folded out and presentable.
And that's why I did the upload. Will CGC help in the conservation I said it in the title. Will they help in the conservation process? And I have to do another upload, because the answer is clearly no, unless they have a vendetta against me, which I think they did.
You've covered a couple things in this last few minutes, which went into two questions I had for you. Okay. So I'm going to ask you those questions as one.
Okay.
One, for the people like Rob's gotten into Golden Age collecting, and for the other people that are novices to it, what are some of the tips for finding Golden Age listings on eBay? And
don't tell them.
And two, do you believe and do you think that CGC is actively patrolling us comic YouTube channels to see what's out there, what's said, and what's developing in the community?
Okay, that's two questions. So the first one, you just have to be diligent. And the tips are, it's not a part-time job. If you're looking for a certain book, or you're looking for Golden Ages, you have to look every day, and you have to put in different terms, and you have to put different search terms, different types of searches. And one thing I like to do is, if I see a low-grade book, and this is a good tip, and I mentioned, I had an upload, I think, and the thumbnail says, don't buy Golden Age books, it's a bad investment. And it was very popular because it was tongue-in-cheek, and I explained how to buy them and how to search and how to find them. But if I have to say one tip that I would like to say is, if you see a low grade book, or a book that you're semi-interested in, you always go to the seller on the listing and you hit other books for sale. And you want to see what they have for sale in addition to the book that you are looking at. And a lot of times what happens is, when I see that, say I see a low-grade Wiz Comics that I have, and I think to myself, how'd this guy get this? I bet you he has more. He must have came across some type of collection, a water-damaged collection, or something like that. You hit other books or other things that seller has for sale, and then his whole listing will come up. So if there is one tip I would give that tip in doing searches on eBay, because it really produces good results and it helps in finding books. The second part of your question, do I think that CGC is looking at YouTube channels? I don't think so. I think they're looking at my channel, okay? Because the reason why they're not looking at the majority of channels is because I don't know many people on YouTube who do what I do, okay? There's a few. Now, there's a few people who are starting to do it now, and they're starting to do different procedures and showing how they do it, but there's not many. So if you do a search on YouTube, leaf casting, there's most likely one channel that will come up in relation to comics, and that's mine, okay? If you look leaf casting, though, there'll be a lot of leaf casting for like ancient documents or from museums, and that's how I really learned how to do it. And the reason why I think they're looking at my channel, and I've said this before, it's no secret, is because I had a run-in with professional restorers, conservationists. So they used to come to my channel and start poking at me and saying what I'm doing is wrong. I don't know if you recall the whole note scenario. I should write a note. And they took it very personal against me. I'm a little YouTube channel having fun working on books. I'm not doing this as a professional. But the problem is when they poked at me, I didn't back down, and I went full force against them. And one in particular that I had an issue with, he made a comment on one of my posts when we were actually debating, and he turned around, and I thought it was very silly what he did, because he wrote a long paragraph which I didn't even respond to. I respond to every single one of my comments. This one I didn't. I left it open. He said, giving me a lecture, that he participated and he worked hand in hand with CGC in order to develop the conserved grade. He met with them, he sat with them, he developed the criteria, what a conserved grade is. And if anyone wants to go look at his commentary, go look at the uploaded deal. I think it's entitled.
So he's got contacts there for sure.
He worked there. He worked there. So if he developed the conserved grade, and I think the thumbnail was, I got canceled by a professional restorer, because this guy actually, he blocked me on Instagram. And I'm like, really? Oh, what, to be in second grade, you blocked me?
Right, like he's got a vendetta.
Then when he blocked me, after he blocked me and I made those uploads, then things started to happen. I got my first book back, two. One was conserved. It was Mike Night Tigers. They were twin Captain Marvel Adventures number 27. It's the first Mr. Mine, a physical appearance, I think they are. And I sent both of them in. And I cleaned Mike's cover, and I really maybe shouldn't have publicized it so much, because I was doing Instagram uploads. I was sending pictures all over the place. Obviously, he's seeing it. And then I did that to books so many times, and I got universal grades. This time it came back conserved. My Captain Marvel adventure came back restored, which is the same work. And what they did is they gave it a B1 restoration, so they like knocked me down a little bit. The previous 3 or 4 books that I submitted, I got every single one of them restored. And to be honest, the ones that I submitted before that, they weren't even as good as the Captain Marvel that I submitted. And then I had the issue with Jim's book from Bronzeville Comics. That came back restored. That I have uploads on that book. I didn't even put them up on YouTube because I'm disgusted with that, because that should no way have been restored. That should have been a conserved grade. And now I'm doing things when I'm submitting books like the Action Comics. That wasn't my account. All the ones I'm doing now, I'm going to local comic shops. I'm spreading them out. I'm going to different places and I'm submitting them. And I'm not submitting them when I'm like, okay, YouTube, hello, everyone. I'm submitting the book now to CGC, and let's see what they give. No, I'm not that dumb. I'm submitting them when I want to submit them. I'm going to outsmart the fox, and we're going to see what's going to happen. And I have a few things at play now that, I don't know, one I should have had back maybe about 3 weeks ago with what I paid for, and they still have it. So I have a feeling they're around a big boardroom table, smoking their cigars, looking at this book, going, okay, is this Jerry the Jitterbug's book? I don't know. Let's comb the internet. Let's pay our employees to look and see, and let's call up the person that helped develop the CGC conserved
Let's call it
standard.
CGC Fanboy Army.
Yeah.
CGC Illuminati.
Right.
I think that guy was right, that I do talk too much.
So
I'm sorry, Gary.
You are fine. That's what
but you're submitting. For. But the key thing that CGC should know is that you're submitting all your books in the state of Montana. That's where they originate from.
Right.
You know. So.
I
wasn't supposed to say that.
YouTube.
Sorry.
I'm sending books to Montana. I'm sending books to California, and then they're submitting them from Canada. It's a whole network, baby. It's going to be very hard.
So we'll change gears a little bit.
Okay.
Because there's something I know that's important to you in comic collecting, and I wanted you to speak about it for a little bit. And that's patriotism in comics and how it feeds into how you collect.
Sure. Well, number one, anything with an American flag I really like, especially from Golden Age. I know Roger sent me a Rocketeer that one time. I have it, a beautiful Rocketeer cover. And I used to love that movie when it came out, The Rocketeer. That was a great
Yeah,
movie.
me too.
And in fact, if you go to Disney, if you go to Hollywood Studios, there is a little concession area in Hollywood Studios where they sell Coca-Cola, and in the back on a shelf is the Rocketeer's backpack and the Rocketeer's helmet. They have a lot of things like that in Hollywood Studios based on movies. Because I think the Rocketeer movie may have been Disney affiliated at the time, or MGM at the time. That's why I think they have it. But I like books that show patriotism. I don't think, and I really don't know. I'm probably misspeaking, but I don't think today's comics. I don't see a lot when I see new comic day uploads and people showing modern books. It doesn't look like there is too much patriotic feeling expressed in covers now at this era. I don't see it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you don't. But I mean, if you take a look at the Golden Age and when those years are, you do have a little bit of a conflict that was going right through the middle of it that helped to spur some of that. I mean, because every time in pop culture, every time recently, we've had various conflicts that we're actively involved in. You do see a little bit of a bubbling up of that, gets more of that type of stuff where they try to pull people together. So it doesn't shock me as much,
Right,
but
right.
but
Well,
I
I mean,
understand what you're saying.
I personally think the best publisher back in the day who did that was Fawcett, and that's why I
Yes.
like Fawcett. And
Agreed.
Fawcett even continued that into the 50s with the Korean War, because towards the end of Captain Marvel Avengers, there's some really good Korean War themed covers, patriotic covers. So it's really cool. I don't. So I just like that in a sense where, again, you're right, Rob, 100%, where it was a major do or die war that we were fighting, and pretty much the majority of the people supported the war. There weren't any flag burners back during World War II based on my knowledge of history, so it was all in for the war effort. And even publishers did it with the rationing of papers, with the one staple when they published the books. It was a crazy time. And in fact, with the Action Comics, I know I like to bring this Action it's right there, I'm looking at it. It was very weird, because when I was going over the book, I never saw it before. They had on 3 pages, single pages inserted in the book. And I was like, oh God, is this missing a book? But then I started inspecting it, and they actually published that way, where they cut the page right down the center, and they inserted half pages. So I guess someone left a comment, and I don't doubt him, where they were rationing papers. I think it's more that they were more focusing on quality back then, just like anything else. And maybe the story was 1 extra page, and they didn't have a ad to put in it, and they wanted to portray the story as written. So I think it was maybe more like that versus cutting the paper, but I could be wrong. But again, just to answer your question, I like American flags. I like things with American flags. I like war covers. I'm a history buff. I like World War II, and I just feel that it's a cool time, which is expressed through the Golden Age comics that I collect. Cool time in history. Not that it was cool what went on, but you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Now, Comic Mag Musings, Bill over there has a question for you. He wants to know if you're going to start submitting to CBCS as an alternative.
Mm, I don't think so, because it's like going to the same restaurant. I think maybe even Rob, someone said this. I mean, Rob, you could have said this when I watch you. I don't comment a lot, but I think someone said it's like going to the same restaurant over and over, and you get a bad steak, but then you keep on going back. And the deal is, I like CGC. I like their cases. I feel that they are the gold standard in the grading, and when they do things right, they do it right. And when things go flawlessly, I like it. Like with the Dumbo, the Walt Disney Dumbo that I just received back, they encapsulated it beautifully. I sent it express from Montana. No, I actually sent that from California. So
Okay. That was the one you had me send for you.
Yeah, it came back beautifully, and it's presented in the case nicely. And for that I really like CGC, and I like fucking with them. Excuse my language. I do. I like the cat and mouse game, and I like messing around with them. And now it's to the level where if I have something in my head and I feel that there's an issue there, I'm going to explore it until the end. So I'm not done with the job yet.
Nice. Now, as someone that has switched sides over to CBCS more, I really like the quality of what they offer. Now, I'm not a snob when it comes to grading services. Obviously, I'll take a CGC any day. I like them too. But I've definitely really liked the quality and the consistency that over the last year I've gotten from CBCS.
So Gary, I'll tell you the one thing that does come into play with Golden Age books and CBCS, and that is that, well, up until recently, anyways. I guess now the CBCS has bigger. Now is going to now have magazine holders. Has been the issue with some of the sizes on the Golden Age books. You just couldn't get them done. I have one or two Golden Age books I've sent to CBCS that probably they should have sent them back to me and not tried to shoehorn them into the case. And then I have some that there was no way I could have ever sent them to CBCS. Those Australian Golden Age Buck Rogers, for example, those are just straight up magazine size, and you had no choice. But
are they rippling in the case because they shoved it in?
Yeah.
That's a problem. I have a few books from CGC like that, and it's a problem because when they're going through their so-called, if you look online, what is it, quality control?
Yeah.
That should be a red flag. And if you're looking at it and you see that they're squishing it in, that's a problem. And I don't understand why they just don't retool. It's probably a lot of money to do it. Just make it a few centimeters bigger on each side so you have some wiggle room, because they're making it where I'm looking at a lot of Golden Age comics now. If there is a slight spine roll,
that's where it usually happens, is when you have the spine roll. Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's very important to try to get the spine roll out before you send it in. But sometimes you can't, because when I work on a lot of the books and there is a spine roll, I do my best to get it out. But with the Golden Age books, it's not equal down the middle of the spine on each side. So people may look at it and go, oh, you didn't get that spine roll out. No, that's not the case, because if you fold it on the line of the spine, the back cover may be shorter than the front cover because the width of the back cover is cut wrong. And you don't want to fold over the graphics on the front cover to go into the back cover. So it's not a perfect thing. I have a lot of miscuts. I did a lot of uploads with Fawcett. Fawcett was notorious for miscuts. I have ones that are like angles, like
and sometimes they put the staple in the weirdest damn spot.
Sure. I love books like that. I
like
love
half inch in, you're like, wait, come on.
Yeah, I like miscuts. I think miscuts are cool. I think it shows the manufacturing process went awry. Maybe the guy drank too much the night before when he went to work, and he put the paper roll in a little crooked. I like the history.
That kid's sitting there with scissors, cutting the pages. Come on.
Yeah. Well, and it seems too, right? If you're a professional grading company, because I never had a Golden Age book, so I don't think about the grading.
All right, I'm on the look for you now, Gary.
But I never thought about that. But so if you're a grading company, you think you'd take all eras into account and have a size that would accommodate that, just as a standard practice.
Sure. Or you just take the biggest book, which is typically the Golden Age, and you make it a little bit bigger, and everything else falls into play. If it's a modern book, you're going to have a little space on each side. CGC is weird because sometimes I get cases that are thicker than regular cases. So they do have thickness, meaning top to bottom thickness. They do have different size cases where I believe, especially with all the Golden
the
Age
specials, the 96-page specials and stuff. And
right. It's a thicker case, so I do get thicker cases. But if they just opened it up a little bit and expanded it a few centimeters, I think it would be a lot better. Listen, I think the Golden Age is a dying breed, personally. And you look at the majority, not majority, I'm not even going to throw out the statistics, a lot of the YouTube channels, and it's modern, and you don't see much Golden Age on YouTube. There's a handful of people who show the Golden Age and appreciate, I'm not going to say appreciate, but specialize in showing the Golden Age. So it's a dying breed. It's like the fast new car versus the old 40s Cadillac. The young people today are going to want the fast new car versus the Cadillac like your father had. Didn't your father have a Cadillac, Roger, you told me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had the big one, the one with the big fins in the back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now,
we've had a few of those specialists though on the show lately though, Gary. You know, the last couple of weeks we've had a few Golden Age specialists come through the Saturday show,
and especially on Slab Hub, you've had quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was talking. Yeah, we've been on a run.
I'm not saying
but they're the
not
exception
there.
still.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying in proportion to the comic books.
Oh yeah, I can't afford to have mail call Monday on Golden Age books every single week. Come on, Jerry. I got kids to put through college.
That's why when I do Golden Age unboxings, I only do one book. That's it. And one book, because I'm not buying 30 books a week. So it's one book, and you showcase the book. And I like doing it that way. I only like one, maybe two books, because you get lost sometimes. If it's a lot of books, there's a lot of content.
I don't think so, Scott.
But also, too, Jerry, I think the reason you see a lot more modern right now is you had a
Scott
lot
buys
of
it all?
younger people that jumped onto YouTube when COVID hit.
Sure.
And they're all modern, new collectors.
Well, look what they've done with the spec prices on this modern stuff too. Who can blame them? It's ridiculous.
It's amazing that it's a whole market with the speculation and buy this book. Where are these people selling the books? Where are they? Where is there like
To each other.
To each other, yeah.
And it's just a matter of who gets. It's playing hot potato and seeing who gets stuck with it in the end.
It's like the old pyramid scheme. Remember that, Jerry?
Yeah.
And then what's the person at the
water purifiers they used to do that. So it's a crazy thing. For me, I cannot understand what is the one. I never read it, and I may sound out of touch. The new Spider-Man,
Ultimate Fallout 4.
Yeah, the one where he's holding the hood, and there you go.
There you go.
There you go. I never read it. I never saw it in a store. What year did that come out, Rob?
2011.
Okay, so I wasn't in the game anywhere near at that time or anything like that. But that book, educate me, it's thousands of dollars, isn't
Yes.
it?
The 9.6 will run you around 1,100, 1,000 to 1,100 to 9.8. Of course, you know how. And of course, if you have the 1 in 25 variant, then that's all bets are off. You're talking $10,000 plus, and it's a book that really wasn't that much until it really took off was when Sony launched its video game. And it's the first time we've seen a video game launch it, but it was just the recognition of the fact that this is a character who isn't going away, and then people realizing that, hey, Sony, Marvel rides the back of Spider-Man.
Wow.
I can't own an AF-15. I will probably never own an AF-15 other than the facsimiles I have.
Sure.
But if
I'm a romantic, I still feel, because I hit a lot of estate sales, garage sales, and
I pray.
And I still think I will go in and go through a bundle of books, and I'll find something like that. I honestly think. And an example is, I was at a local comic book show in New Jersey, 4 months, whatever it was, and I was negotiating to buy a Golden Age book. I think it was a Wiz Comics, and I was like, it was a couple of $100, and I'm trying to negotiate. And then there's a young fella next to me, and he has an Amazing Spider-Man. What is it, 300?
Okay.
There,
Yep.
a high grade, and then I see him taking out a stack of like hundreds like this, and he's peeling, and I'm looking at this, and I have my $200 looking at the Wiz Comics. I think he paid like $5-6 grand for this book. It was a high grade.
It had to be a 9.8 at that price, but
And I think it was also a yellow label.
Stan Lee and
But
Todd
he was
McFarlane on
paying
it.
like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this book, and I don't get it. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying that it's wrong to want it or to try to buy it, but I just don't get it. Maybe I'm out of touch.
When you look at a book that's got 20,000-30,000 books on census versus when you're looking, I'm looking at a book right now that I'm trying to close a deal on that has 8 on census.
Correct. Yeah. And it's just a matter of supply and demand. That's how I look at value. If there's not a lot there, it should be worth more. And faucets are very...
demand's not always there. That's the...
Correct. Faucets are very... You can pick up faucets for good prices if you're smart. That's going to change soon. I'm going to do some speculation with all these with the Shazams and the Black Adams coming out. Maybe. It doesn't look that good. I watched the trailer a few times. They're making bad people.
It didn't cause them to go up that much last time. What went up was the DC ones.
Really?
Because the DC, somewhere up here I have the Shazam 28, the first DC appearance of Black Adam. Okay. That one took off like there's no tomorrow.
Now
I'm sure
I see they're doing the what is the fan magazines? Is it Alter Ego? And
the first Silver Age.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's a Bronze Age book and whatever. But it's first unofficial cover appearance. Well, that's like the people who pay tens of thousands of dollars for the previews magazine with Miles Morales on it. And it's like, it's a flipping previews for God's sakes.
Right. That makes no sense to me either, Roger.
There must be a lot of COVID money still floating around, I guess. I don't know, because I have mortgage, taxes, and things like that.
I got 2 college tuitions to pay for plus a mortgage. So there you go. Which is why I can do sometimes you're looking at Golden Age books and going, Joe Palooka sounds like the right guy for me because I can get those for $30 a pop still and high grade.
Fox and the Crow are looking really nice right now.
Exactly right. How do I feel about ASM 365? Yeah, let's not get into that. You know where I feel on that one, Taylor.
Is that Silver Sable? Is that for Silver Sable?
No, it's the hologram appearance, a hologram cover, black, but inside the last 5 pages are the first 5 pages of Spider-Man 2099 issue 1. And it's the preview, and people calling it the first appearance and stuff when it's a preview versus the exact same pages that are in the original, but everybody knows at this point that I'm in love with Spider-Man 2099. Just because that was the first book that when I didn't start collecting books until 92, and that was the first book I saw on the spinner rack. It was a Spider-Man and it was a #1, and I said yes. And that was it.
Those are good memories.
Now, let's talk about building memories.
Nostalgia's good, yeah.
All right, so obviously you're a Golden Age collector. And imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And you have your nephew, Angelo, following in your footsteps. Also, you got his toe. He's dipped into the Golden Age books and the Silver Age, and he collects a lot of what you do. So how much fun is it for you to have someone in the family that collects the same as you do? And what does that do to increase the joy of your collecting?
Oh, it's awesome, and we're supposed to go to a show this Sunday in New Jersey together, so we have a lot of fun. And I think he's on the right course buying the right books, because they're not making any more of these books like we've been discussing. So he's buying key books, and he's spending some nice birthday money in getting some good books. And he's also cleaning, he's pressing them, so he's learning a lot. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a great thing. And even if he gets out of the hobby, he'll have something when right now he has a very nice collection of Golden Age books, and when he's older, he'll appreciate them looking back, because they're just going to appreciate. I look at these books as appreciating. I don't see them as diving, and that is one of the issues with the modern books. I guess they oscillate up and down, or they go up and then they go down, they don't go back up. But with the Golden Age, it's one way, in my opinion, and that one way, for the good ones, is going up, and it may be a slow journey, but they're not making them anymore. And if you get some good ones, you hold on to them. And if you don't have to sell them, don't sell them, because I actually thought, you know what, maybe I should sell some books to try to get some revenue to buy what I want. And I have many, many long boxes from collecting when I was younger, and I opened up an eBay account, and I started putting books on eBay, and it just, I sold some good ones, but I stopped doing it because it was a lot of work, and I didn't want to give up the valuable books. I wanted to keep them. I was selling books $5, $6 a time.
Too much work.
Yeah, it's too much work. The way I wrap them, I'm cutting the cardboard, making it all beautiful, putting the folds on the tapes, because that's how I do things, and I'm not going to just throw it in an envelope. And I was like, what the F am I doing? I have to get away from it, so I'll give them away. And Gary, if I may, just for 1 second, because I know I had a 1,500 subscriber giveaway, and people may be saying, well, okay, I voted, but nothing ever happened, and I'm a little bit past 1,500. So it's gonna come. It's coming soon, because what happened was I was negotiating, and I actually won a book that I wanted to give away, and it was an Action Comics number 41. That was the Golden Age that I was going to give away.
Wow.
And it was in very rough shape, and it was a split spine, and I was going to conserve it and give the book away. I wasn't going to send it to CGC. So I first made an offer, because there's sometimes, and if people have channels out there, I do it all the time. Like, if I see a book on eBay, I'll contact them, even if it's not a make an offer, and I'll say, hi, I have a YouTube channel, Jerry the Jitterbug, check it out. I would like to feature your book on my channel. I want to work on it. And I get bites. Sometimes I go, oh yeah, sure, I know you, I watch your channel, or I'll sell you the book at a discount. So this Action Comics 41, I said to the guy, I go, listen, you're saying that there's no color touch, no pieces added. I'm looking at it now, and I'm telling you there's pieces added and there's color touch. And he's, no, I had it checked out, and he argued with me. So then I won the bid like 2 weeks later, and it was low hundreds. And I won. I paid for PayPal. I was very excited to display this and show it and work on it. And then, like, the day after, I get a message from him. He must have looked at my channel, and he's like, I have to recant and give you a refund, because I brought the book to a local comic shop, and the expert looked at it, and they said there was restoration that I didn't disclose on the listing. And I said, okay, well, and this is all back and forth with the computer. I said, do you ever buy it now? I'm still interested in it, and he never contacted me. So there's going to be a little delay. It's going to happen. So just everyone be patient. If anyone was thinking about it, maybe no one was, but I just wanted to get that out there.
Oh no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure people get excited on your channel when they hear about the Golden Age stuff, because like you said earlier, you mostly see modern. So seeing people like you, Roger, Rob bringing out these old books, it's nice. It's covers you don't see every day. It's books sometimes that you didn't even know existed, and you're seeing this incredible art. And when I was watching Comic Mag Musings channel, and he's doing right now, I'm going to give Bill a plug. He's doing a great series right now on top 500 pre-code horror covers. And some of those, there's no cover artists listed, and you had this whole genre back then where the artists weren't even being given their due. You have these incredible art pieces on the
Sure.
covers, and the art's amazing, with no idea who did it. And it's just a shame that you don't know these guys, especially with the work they did. And
And
they're
they
finding
really help
appreciation now through
There's
your
a
guys' channel.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of that, yeah. And hey, don't forget, Comic Mags Museum is going to be on Slab Hub, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Just to throw it out there.
We're
Have them
sorry,
involved.
Gary. Bill paid us ahead of time to plug them.
That's fine. That's why we're all here.
Roger paid us not to plug them, but Roger paid less. So
That's why we're here.
Oh, you can't even get a good bribe in here, I tell you. It's amazing.
No respect,
yeah.
I tell you, no respect.
No respect,
No
Rob.
respect at all.
It is nice when people watch your channel. It is nice when people comment, and I wouldn't be doing it if I uploaded a video and I had 3 watches. I'd be like, why am I wasting my time doing it? I get a lot of joy seeing people enjoying what I put out and commenting and asking questions, and it cycles. There are consistent followers that you have, but all of you know that now that you've been doing it for a long time, you'll see, oh, this one comments for a period of time, then they fall away, which is fine. I'm not disparaging it, but it's a nice way to make friends, and I have friends now. In particular, I speak to Mike Night Tiger on the phone. I speak to him every day, every other day. When I'm in the car, I call him up, and because he drives a truck for a living, and I speak to him when I know he's in the truck and I'm driving, and we just talk. And we don't only talk about comics; we talk about other things. It's not just that. So it's
You mean
very
you can make
nice,
real
and-
friends?
Yes, and it was very nice that I met Roger in South Carolina. That was an amazing time. It was very cool. And now when I go away, or if I go to different states, if I'm going to be there for an extended period of time, I have no problem, and I enjoy meeting people that you're friends with on YouTube, even if it's like for 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you have to go out and have a dinner because you're on vacation with your family. But just to meet them, say hello, and it's a very nice thing to do, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Sorry, I'm watching some of the banter. I'm listening to you watching some of the banter go
I'm
back
not
and
even
forth in the
reading
chat.
any of it, so
Now, I did want to touch on an aspect of your personality that I noticed, and I think it plays big into why you enjoy what you do and how you collect. Is you have a perfectionist personality, and I think part of the big reason that, at least in my eyes, that you're in the golden age and silver age in these older books, not only because they're great or they have patriotic covers,
Because they're
but
perfect.
also, yeah, they're not perfect, and it's something that
They
you
are perfect.
can work on, and you get that sense of accomplishment when you've improved it.
you're 100% right, and they are a lot easier, in my opinion, to work on than a more modern book. I thought, like recently, I sent 3 modern books in, probably within the last 3 or 4 months, to CGC, and I got them back modern. They were early 90s, but that's still modern compared to the books from the 40s. It was a Spider-Man #1, the silver and black one. It was a Web of Spider-Man #1, and then it was another Spider-Man that I sent, or maybe it was a G.I. Joe, the Snake Eye ones. I have a lot of books like that are in the long boxes, and I pressed them back when I first got my press. I only had a press for about a year and a half, and I was like, oh, I'm going to press these books. I knew nothing about pressing, so I used Teflon sheets, which are the gold sheets, and CGC calls it now canvassing, and you'll see it. You'll see a little ripple. You'll see an imprint of the Teflon sheets in the book. And I was like, oh, geez. And I took it out. I saw it. I go, I messed these up. So I tried to cure it. I use parchment paper now, which I like a lot better. And I fixed it a little bit. and I did my prediction videos, and I thought I was going to get a little bit higher, but I got all 9s in the books. They're good grades, but the graders' notes did say canvassing, so they do pick that up now.
Oh.
And now I wouldn't do it, but it's just a learning experience for any people who press.
I've heard that a couple times.
That stuff because that's very popular that people want to use that. It actually will harm the book. But I do use those sheets on Golden Age books sometimes, because when I do the leaf casting and when I add to the book, I want to create a texture sometimes. Because by creating the texture, you can blend in better the leaf casting to the original cover. So there is a way to use the tools for different aspects of the hobby.
Great answer.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
I want to head back to CGC a moment.
Sure.
Now, you've obviously reached out to them quite a few times. Have you thought about partnering with them and having them on your channel as you work on a book to kind of get the back and forth on it?
I don't think they would, but meaning like with the conservation process,
Right.
maybe, Gary? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
I would. I think I'd rather be under the radar right now and do what I'm doing until maybe things die down a little bit. and I want to see how things play out. Listen, I'm a ball. I like to bust chops. And one of my largest views on my videos are when I knock CGC. So if I do a thumbnail and I like to do the FCGC or what the FCGC, and I use the little emojis, I like to use them. My daughter laughs at me, and I'm a 50-year-old using emojis. So whenever I do something like that, I sometimes get 1,500 views, sometimes a little less, sometimes more.
Yeah, because it brings out the CG fanboys plus the CGC haters. They all want to come to see what you're saying.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual commentary, sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Because I like to respond to everyone. I'm doing it for hours because I just don't write, when you respond and it will come up automatically, cheers, and it shows the beer emoji. I try to at least write something that has some thought to it and responding to the person. Even if you just throw a name in, Roger, you do that all the time. It's it's nice, but it's very hard. You guys know that managing a YouTube channel is not easy. It is, and I have to say this low because I don't want my house to hear me. It's not hard. It's not an easy thing, and there's a lot of time.
No, it keeps you busy.
It keeps you busy. And what I've been doing is I've been banking a lot of my uploads. So if I work on a book, I'll bang it out, and I'll spend a few hours on the book, and I like to break it up into segments just to create content. I think the more content you put out, shorter episodes, I think is more plausible for people to watch. If you're going to put an hour upload, it's not enough time in the day. I think shorter, sweet, to the point is the way to do it. But I'm not an expert. What do I know?
There's people who say the same things, but then there's those who say others. So who knows? Yeah.
Right.
I know what you're saying. Is like so the biggest views I have mine have been stuff actually about PGX, which everybody hates supposedly, but they get the most views of anything. The ones where it's like I'm never using them again, and why do I use them? Those two videos by far.
I didn't even know there was still a viable player, to be honest with you.
Viable is a questionable term,
okay.
but
they're still in business.
They're still in business. They have that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
In fact, there'll be a video on that soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
Now,
just like EGS is still in there.
Now, Jerry, with all the books you've worked on, I'm sorry, Rob, if you're done, keep going, sir.
No, go.
Oh, okay. Is there a book, a Golden Age book that you're dying to work on? Like Like most people have a dream book they want to own. Is there like a dream book that you want to actually work on that you put the Jerry work into?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, and this when I say this, people may say, "What? What did he just say?" I don't particularly like when books are conserved. Okay, I feel that books should be in a pure state. So let me explain that. If you have a point .5 book and it's a high number book, I think you're better off leaving it in that state and trying to make it as best as possible. An example is the Four Colors Mickey Mouse that I did. I thought long and hard that it had a split spine, it was missing pieces. I can conserve this book and I can send it in and get a conserved grade, maybe a 3, a 2 something versus a 1.0 blue label. And I decided to keep it a blue label because I don't want to add anything to it. I don't want to add paper. It's just not something I want to do. I'd rather see a pure book in a case. But if the book is in such condition, if you want to read it, if you want to enjoy it, like Roger's book, Roger will not get books encapsulated. I'm sure, Roger, even if I offered to send it to CGC, you would say no. So for Roger's point of view, I think that the conservation process that I'm doing on the book is 100% a wonderful idea because you can look at it, you can read it, you can enjoy it. Because that book would fall apart if I sent it to you and pressed it and cleaned it. You would go, oh, and you would turn the page. I work on it and flakes are falling off as I hold it.
It's
It is
super
that
rough.
brittle.
Yeah.
But when I'm done with it, you'll be able to thumb through and read it, hopefully. So, to answer your question, Gary, I would love to work on an early Wiz. I would love to have Wiz number 1 or 2 as it's listed. That's my Grail book and a Batman number 1. So when I would want to work on it, I would want to do what I did with the Mickey Mouse book, where I would make it as best as I could, keeping it in the condition that it was. So if it had a split spine, I would keep the split spine. I wouldn't put archival tape. I hate archival tape. I do not like archival tape. You put archival tape on, you're better off just putting regular tape on, because to take you're not, I'm just saying that facetiously, because archival tape, to take it off, is the same to take off regular tape. The adhesive sticks to it. It's damaging, in my opinion, to the book, putting it on and taking it off. The only thing that's better is the acidity in the tape. It's acid free, and they make it a little bit thinner so you can try to blend it. And this is an example of why I think CGC, one of the uploads I just recently did, I got 3 books back. I'm looking at one. It's one of my favorite Wiz comics, is the hobo, when Captain Marvel's a hobo with the stick and the handkerchief. And I took that book. It was one of my earlier books, and it has on about 5 or 6 areas archival tape. And when I put on the cover, on the inside, and when I put archival tape, I do it a certain way where I fray the edges. Because I know sometimes people put archival tape on and they'll just go zip and they'll put it on a straight thing and it looks like a piece of tape. You can't do that. You fray the edges and you blend it in nicely. And CGC did not pick up at all that there was tape on the inner book, and it was on a lot of places.
Wow.
And this was before they changed their labeling process, and if they saw it, they would have put it. And I made it, you know, like I said, I bust chops, because when something like that happens, what do? I go down to my little boiler room and I set up my little tripod and I make my thumbnail. It's all show. It's all that's what it is, and it's very popular. But I like to point it out. They're human. They don't catch everything. They do not catch everything. And then I'll have the commentary saying, well, you should send it back in with a note and say, CGC, you missed the tape. Could you please
It's their
edit
job to
the
catch it when
label?"
it's there.
Yeah, why would I do that? And guess what? Based on you know what? All those people that commented about the notes, I'm going to bring it up on an upload. Let's open that debate now, because guess what? Their main reason why they were arguing that I should send notes is because I potentially would deceive a potential buyer because it wasn't disclosed that tape was put on the book. Guess what now, CGC? You don't even put it on the label.
They don't put it anymore. Yeah.
Right.
It's in the grader's
it's
notes
moot.
if there's notes.
It's a moot
so
point.
I have
Yeah.
to buy an account in order to see grader's notes.
Right.
And guess what? The one that I put the tape on in the grader's notes, they didn't even say there was tape. So
Now, as primarily a CGC user, what do you think of that new policy, though?
it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because some of the things that they put on the labels, I think shouldn't be there. I think it should just be reflected with the grade. They're weird, CGC, with their view on tape, because they did say there was tape, but the tape doesn't impact the grade of the book. It will still be graded as if the tape was not there, and they'll mention the tape. But if you put a piece back to the book, say a corner came off when you're handling it, and you used a piece of archival tape to put it back, they'll deem that as restored, and that you'll get a purple label. It's tricky. Tape you can use to mend rips, to mend spines, but if you're using tape to add a piece back onto the cover, that's restoration.
I was under a belief that when you did the tape, when there was tape just to mend, that it was counted as a deduction, as just a standard defect. There was no more harsh than any other defect with their current setup, but it was no longer an automatic.
My understanding is tape, they look at it as if tape wasn't there.
Yeah. This is the real problem, actually, is that CGC is very vague about what is what when it comes to the grading process. I mean, when you go to their website and you see their descriptions, it's just, this is a grade. This is slightly less than this.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. They're pretty good, though, because believe me, I spent time analyzing their website and looking to see what their standards are with conservation, what you can use, and some of it you can argue against what you can use or not, because there's a lot of materials that I use for conservation that are not listed. So maybe the professional who advised them should advise them to add more items on the list. But with the tape, I think if it's tape, they view it as it's not there, and whatever the defect is the grade. So split spine, that's the grade that you get.
Interesting.
But I do have a few. I have a few whizzes in my early submissions that I did add tape in, adding corners on, and it came back as restored, and I did call them and I researched it, and because you're adding a piece to the cover. If you deduct from the cover, that's universal. Deduct with cleaning, erasers, things of that nature. But whenever you add to the cover, that is restoration, unless you're adding to the cover with a high grade of professionalism and you use the right methods in adding to the cover. That's how you get the conserved grade. So if I'm going to add a corner to a book, and if I use Tengojo paper and methyl cellulose or wheat paste, it will come back as a conserved grade because I did not use tape. It's mind-boggling. It doesn't make sense, a lot of it, but I do get their approach with that. I just don't like that they gauge my books differently because they have a vendetta against me. They do.
Well, I mean, you got a fun love-hate relationship with them.
It is. It's like with my dogs when they bark. When anyone comes to the house, I have a giant schnauzer. It's a big dog. It's about 85, 90 pounds. and the barking drives me crazy. And I have small dogs too, and they bark, and it's constant barking. But if an intruder comes in, I'm not gonna mind when that happens. So it's a love-hate relationship, like everything with life, right?
Yeah, true.
Now, I know we're hitting the hour 10 mark. I had one more question for you, but
I'll
didn't
go
know if
all
the
night.
other gentleman here had a question for you before I get to mine.
I do have a question.
Yes, Roger.
And I'd like to focus more on the comics. And it's great talking about CGC and conservation. We know that, you're as far as I'm concerned, the best at that I know.
Thank you.
But I want to go back to the genesis of your love for comics. Obviously, I've seen your channel. I've seen almost all your videos. You seem to be focused on Batman, Captain Marvel, and Disney comics. That seems to be your focus. So what is the roots of your love for those particular publishers and characters? I know you talked a lot about the patriotism with the Fawcett, but is there more than that? And what about the other two?
It's very simple, the answer. It's growing up. When I grew up, I was born in 1973, and it was that one show every Saturday morning where it was the Super Friends. And I'm talking about the Super Friends before. Was it the Super? Yeah, Super Friends were, no, what was first? There were two aspects of that show. So I'm talking about the one with what was his name? Marvin. And
like Marvin and Wendy.
Super Friends.
So
that's
that was
Super Friends.
The first one, Super Friends, and then it got really cool with the Legion of Doom and Lex Luthor. That's when it really took a turn.
And that's when the Wonder Twins kind of came in. And
Sure. So it's growing up during that time. So when I grew up during that time, and we touched on this last time, Gary, when we were in the when I was in the hot seat, but it was a very special time. The late 70s, and growing up, it was just a great time waiting for Saturday morning. And another thing that I used to watch was, as an early youth, was Batman 1966. The first movie, I think it was 66 when it came out. And then I used to watch the Batman series, because back then, from the 60s with Adam West, because they used to play it, I believe, on Channel 11 in New York, or every day after school they used to play it. Or even, I remember before I went to school, I used to watch the Super Friends, and that's how I really became involved with DC. Batman was my hero. Superman, Shazam was my hero.
Get on a dirt bike.
Yeah, all of that.
With the motorhome.
My basement when I was young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, in the early 70s, they sold life-size things that you can hang on the wall. It was Batman, Superman, and they had the pivots on the arms and they folded out, and I used to have them hung all over. My mother put them up for me. I used to dress up as superheroes when I was younger. I wasn't a big sports guy. I was more the fantasy world. Then at that time when Star Wars came out, that added to it as well. I had a relative that used to get movies on Betamax within like a few days after being put out into the movie theater. So what happened was, we used to watch, I had Star Wars when it came out that year on Betamax, and we used to watch it over and over and over.
Wow.
I remember seeing Empire Strikes Back in the movie theater. I didn't see Star Wars, I was too young, and I remember seeing Return of the Jedi, and I continued loving Batman and things of that nature. Then in high school, I started collecting comic books, and I collected a lot of comic books, and that's when I developed a big collection with the major keys, like the whole, not Amazing Spider-Man 300. I don't even think it came out then. When did that book come out, Rob?
88.
Oh, 88. So yeah, that's when I was in high school. but I wish I bought a bunch of them. So, but that's back then. I used to buy a lot of Golden Age back then, and I used to buy a lot of Marvel keys, the Hulk 181s, the Amazing Spider-Man 129s, and I got a large part of my collection in high school for not a lot of money that I still have today. And from there on, I just continued dabbling in comics. And when I went to college, law school, I got out of it. If I went to a garage sale or an estate sale and I saw comics, I would pick them up wherever I saw them, but I wasn't actively buying them. And then as of the last maybe 3 years or so, I got back into collecting again.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
and I know I mentioned this last time, in SeaWorld, back in the 70s, and I would say 77, and if you go on YouTube now, they have it on YouTube. It was amazing. So
I think I sent it to you, right?
Yes, you did. You did. They had.
Because I looked it up after you told me about it.
Yeah, it was amazing. They had a show in the 70s in SeaWorld. Remember the water skiing shows in places where they would all stand on everyone's shoulders?
Cypress Gardens, yeah.
Yep. They had it in SeaWorld, the Super Friends. And it was Batman, Shazam, Captain Savannah, all of them, the Penguin, fully dressed. And my parents brought me there, I remember, when I was really young, and it was just an amazing thing to add to my liking of superheroes. Another story was, I think it was in Sears, where Batman made an appearance with Robin, and this is when I was really young, before school. I was all excited. It was in the newspaper. I'm not proud to say, when I was going down the escalator and I saw them on the stage, little Jerry got very scared as a young boy, and I started crying, and I didn't want to go see them, and I had to go back up. But that was another thing that I remember that really got me into the DC universe. I'm a DC guy in heart.
I try not to hold that against you. Cool.
I also, at least for me anyways, where I was on pure UHF fodder, was always the Steve Reeves Superman would be on constantly too, in marathon bursts and everything else.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that too. I remember I Love Lucy. I used to like to watch that too as a kid, and when Superman appeared in I Love Lucy, it was one of the best things that I remember watching. It was a very cool thing. And Disney, I'm just a big Disney fan. I've been going there since I was younger. I like Disney movies. We're actually going and taking a trip in July. We're going for 10 days to Disney. So we're definitely Disney fans as a family. And if I can pick up key books from Disney, I always look for them and grab them. I think they're wonderful Golden Age books. You should see my pin collection, because I also collect Disney pins. I don't know if anyone knows about that. They're trading pins.
Yeah, if you're a Disney person, invariably you get sucked into the pin world.
Oh, I go a little off the deep end with that too, looking for the rare original pins. I have boxes and boxes and boxes of those.
He's legit, Gary.
Oh yeah. All right, so we'll round it out. My last question for you of the night.
Sure.
And it's just a light question, no heavy lifting here.
I'll try to keep it short.
I know you also have a love for holiday books, where it's like Christmas or Thanksgiving. How did you come to appreciate and love holiday comic books so much? Where does that come from?
Well, I think in a sense I'm like Roger, because I know Roger likes to collect advertisement comics and specialized comics. So you can't collect everything. And I like to focus on Wiz Comics. I like to focus on outside Batman. I like to focus on. And then outside of the Wiz and Captain Marvel and Batman, I have no problem focusing on Golden Age books that have Christmas themes, because I just like Christmas. I enjoy the time of the year, and I used to take the Christmas books that I had, and I used to put them around the house. I haven't done that in a few years. Maybe this year I'll start doing it again. And it's just a nice time of year that I like to collect, and it's a special theme that if I see Christmas covers, I try to grab them. Same thing like Halloween. I'm a big fan. If I see some Halloween covers, I don't have many, but that's something that I would grab just to try to keep it in a grouping that I can focus on instead of buying everything and buying anything that comes across my path, because number one, you'll go broke. Number two, you can't enjoy it. I see there's a lot of collectors that buy a lot of things, and I feel that it's hard. I'm going to show a tour one day. So
every time I take a step, I'm stepping in a new rabbit hole.
I believe you have to stay disciplined, and like Gary, I think when I see your uploads, New Comic Book Day, and I see a stack like this every week, where do you put it all? That's every week you're getting these books. It's a lot of books, and it's a lot. So that's why I try to limit it, and I'm focusing on the groupings that I want to try to collect, and I'm hitting it hard. And I will complete the run of Wiz Comics. It's 155 books. I'm probably more than halfway there. More, I have to count them. So I'll complete the Wiz Comics line or run. The only problems are the early ones, and I'm okay. I've been looking lately at pages, graded pages, and I'm okay with a graded page. I'm not okay with like a Batman #1 graded page that's recently sold for $5,000, one sold for $10,000. That's a little crazy for me. If you have the money, it's all relative, right? I guess it doesn't matter,
Right.
But I don't to spend $10,000 on a page of a book. So there was one Batman #1 that was on eBay a while ago, and it was in rough shape. It was missing the cover, it was missing pages. I don't recall, but I think I have to say that I went up to a little over $6,000 to try to buy it. And the only reason why I did it is that my wife said, you know what, buy it. If you want it, go for it, try to get it, because I calculated based on the pages, I can keep a few of the pages and then send a few of the pages off and get it graded and sell them, which I probably would never have done. But I didn't win it, and I was happy I did not win it.
But you got caught up in the fever for a moment.
Oh, it was well calculated, but it was PayPal is a wonderful partner for the collector, especially because they have the interest-free promotions. I get a lot. I think it's 6 months sometimes. Sometimes they'll give you more. And I'm a big fan for free money if you can make the payments, obviously.
Right.
Who doesn't want free money if you can use it smartly?
Yep.
Nice. Oh, no, that was great.
123. That went by very fast, Gary.
It did, but it always does when you're hanging out with friends, right? The time always flies.
Maybe we'll do another one in 6-7 months. We'll see
Right.
how this one goes.
You know you're welcome on the channel anytime.
Thank you.
Now, for you guys out there that don't know, this is the only place he likes to make his facial appearances because he knows he's better looking than all of us, and he likes to rub it in our face.
That's right. I was only on how many I was only on your channel, Gary, twice. I was on Roger's channel twice. Yep. I was on Jimmy's channel once, Smalltown Collectibles. And I was drinking one night when I was away in South Carolina, and I called up Mike. I was on briefly for his channel. Outside, I was very dark. And
I got to look that one up.
Yeah, it was very quick. Angelo and I were outside on the porch, so I did call up very quickly. I made an appearance. Who else? I think I was on Sean Slim Comics. I was on his 1,000 celebration. Very quickly, I stopped by. And other than that, I haven't been on many shows, but Gary, I truly enjoy being on your show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, buddy. You know I love having you here. It's always fun.
Thank you.
Oh,
And
here he
you
goes. I
too,
thought it was
Roger.
Frankie Avalon when I first tuned in. Comic
Gary's
Journey's
been
trying to
with
claim
me.
me for his channel.
Gary was one of my first subscribers. I think I had like maybe 5 subscribers, and Gary was like maybe the top 10 people who subscribed to my channel. And I credit you, Gary, because you got me rolling. Because if you look at my first few uploads, they're horrible. I'm like, hello, YouTube. I'm not really that good, like all of us, the first few uploads. And you did
Right.
one of your grow together initiatives, or was a shout out that you shouted out my channel. And like I said, I was under maybe 30, and then I started getting more people, and I've been lucky, and I appreciate the people who follow me. I truly do.
Well, I don't think luck has anything to do with it. You have unique content that has value
No.
to it, and that's why people you have a good personality, and that's why people are attracted to your channel.
Thank you. I have to think. I have to start changing it up a little. How many times are you going to watch me putting paper in a blender and mixing it? I have to do something a little different. And stay tuned, because you have to watch what we're going to do for Roger's book. It's a completely different process I never did before. And get ready, professional restorers. Get your pad and pen ready and record it and do a screenshot. And you will learn maybe something to do on your books.
Ooh,
Ooh,
can't wait to see that.
That's a great teaser.
Yes.
All right, guys in the chat, man, we had a great crowd here tonight. I want to thank you all for coming out. But before we take off, we're going to go around the horn here and see what everybody's got coming up on their channel. We're going to start, of course, with Rob up top. Rob, what have you got coming up, sir?
Well, this Saturday will be Slab Hub at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We have the Sultan of Slabs on this week as we continue our adventure into some amazing books. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's in the can. I don't know, I'll open some boxes over the next couple weeks because I'm getting ready to go on a cruise. But there is going to be in there somewhere a massive golden age book that I stepped off that I reached out on, and I am happy as hell to have it in the collection now.
Looking forward to it.
Nice.
Roger, what have you got coming up, sir?
Well, I just dropped today the Comic Community Links video in case you're interested about entering different giveaways. Of course, Gary's is in there. And I think another 5 or 6 that I was able to find. So go there and support that. Don't worry about leaving a comment. Just go and support those channels that are, celebrating with us by giving us something. So I think that's something that's very unique.
Giveaway every Saturday.
I have to add you to the weeklies. Yeah. And I have a video. I'm probably going to drop it tomorrow. I went through my full run of What If Volume 1. I give you my thoughts about the plausibility of the concept and some of my experiences with that run, and just stream of consciousness stuff, really. And that's going to drop tomorrow.
Nice. Coming up on my channel, guys. Don't know if I'll do anything tomorrow, but Saturday we'll have Savage Saturday comic review for you barbaric savages out there. But later Saturday night, we will have Keep On Collecting, where me and Geek Spot YouTube channel, my buddy Mikhail, former Marine too, great guy. We are going to be interviewing Keep On Collecting from Australia on our channel Saturday night. And we'll be interviewing them, who will be in the future for Sunday for them. So, but it'll be a fun interview. Probably one of the most massive, best displayed, and greatest toy collections on YouTube. If you guys have never watched their toy tour of their rooms, absolutely amazing. But so Keep On Collecting will be on our channel Saturday night. Me, special host, like I said, Kale. And Jerry, what's coming up for you, sir, besides Roger's book?
Just continuing to do what I do, and like I said, I'm going to use a unique novel procedure. I'm sure it's done. I'm sure there's many people who have done this in the past, I have never done it on my channel, or I never done it outside of my channel. I never saw it done on any other archival document before. But again, I'm not taking credit that this is unique to me. But I think that it's going to be fun, and hopefully it will work. And then just the same old stuff that I do every other day, I'm going to keep on doing it. And I want to thank Gary for having me on, and Roger and Rob, thank you for being along for the time that we were doing this interview, or hot seat. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. I didn't read any of them because I'm trying to concentrate answering the questions and talking, and I have it here on the side of my computer, so it's hard for me to do both. I only can chew gum and I can't walk. So I'm going to look at all the chats and all the comments after we're done with the upload, and thank you for commenting and supporting my channel, and look forward soon for my 1,500 subscriber giveaway, which should have been a few weeks ago, but I'm looking for another book that I want to give away, a special book.
Nice.
And one last thing, Gary. I think I have to say that when we do, or when you do the initiatives, I have a sense that when people go to other people's channels and they show support, and I'm not pointing anyone in particular, and you subscribe, I don't see a lot of subs coming back sometimes. And sometimes I do notice that when you do get a sub, the next day they're gone. So I don't know if people are counting subs or they want to clean up their subscription lists, but if you're watching content and someone is supporting your channel, support them back. All it is to hit a button. And don't hit a button, then take it back the next day. Because I feel like punching the computer screen when I see something like that, because it's a little petty for some reason. It's not money, it's just hitting a button.
And I think YouTube's part of that problem, because if you leave a comment, your sub will usually stick. But if you don't leave a comment, usually it'll mess with the thing.
Maybe, because lately my subs have been doing crazy things. Like I'll get 3-4 subs, and then they'll be gone, then they'll be back. So I'm not blaming the people, but I do honestly think sometimes it is the people. And I try, listen, I'm very pushy and I'm straightforward. So when I leave a comment on someone in the Grow Together initiative, I write to them, I'm looking forward to your content. Sub me back, please. Appreciate if you sub me back. I put it right out there. I say it. And another thing, if you watch people's channels, I go to my analytics, and 50% of the people who view my channel are not subbed to my channel. 50%. It's crazy. You're watching the content, but you're not subscribing. Am I being too aggressive, guys, in saying
no,
this?
This is all true stuff, because I look at the same things with my analytics, and you see, like,
same thing here.
All that.
That means you're actually getting found by people just checking out the stuff on the side.
Yeah.
But the YouTube sub
to
always
everything. I'm a
and
sub
down.
guy. I like to sub. I subbed the other day to NASA, or the space station, looking around at the Earth from space. I subbed to everything. But that's all I have to say about that. If you're watching, you enjoy, subscribe to everyone here, and support the community.
Right, and it is proper etiquette. If somebody subs you and supports your channel, to sub them back. That's just proper etiquette. It shouldn't have to be stated, but sometimes it does.
I think sometimes it has to be.
Absolutely.
To a degree. And I'm the person to do it, okay?
No, I agree with you 100%. And you know what? It's funny you said that, because I meant to mention that in that video. But I get so distracted with the promotion, I forget about it at the end.
Sure. But we just took care of it, Gary. So hopefully,
it's in the books.
It's set out there, and it will be in YouTube land. So
we got it in the ether.
That's right. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Great show, man. Great show.
Chat, thank you, guys. And for those of you catching this on the rewind, all of Jerry's links and my co-host links are in the description below. Sub everybody up on this panel, and sub up Jerry. You guys will have a great time with all of them. Everybody on this panel has something that's unique to their channel from the other person. So with the people that are represented here today, you will not get the same content from all of them, but it'll all be related to the comic book world. And it's all great with different views, different perspectives, and everybody brings their own variety to this hobby of ours. So sum them all up, check them all out. You won't find better people. And until next time, guys, keep it casual.